Good morning and good evening. Where my guest today is Yanna-Torry Aspraki from Email Council. Is that accurate?
Yes, it is. Yanna-Torry Aspraki from Email Console. Yes.
Yeah. Yanna-Torry and I were on one Zoom call, and I was like, I have got to get her on and have a conversation about email because you pretty much bounce right out of your seat on email topics, and it's just delightful. So thank you for making the time.
Thank you for having me.
Tell people a bit about the company and yourself first. So tell me.
Ah, of course. So I'm Yanna-Torry, have a very long name. The people who know me know I can talk about email and deliverability nonstop. If
Uh-huh.
anything ever happened to me, my mom could pretend to be me for quite a long time because I bounce everything off of her. So she's
Nice.
just as much as a specialist as I am.
Nice.
I started email at CakeMail, the best company on the planet, the best teams as well. And it was a Canadian ESP. So I started all the way from product expert all the way to product manager, or what is it, the engineering team manager. I was learning. I was young, and it was great. I got to meet Kevin Huxham and talk about deliverability, and then that was it. So I went to school to be an engineer, and I ended up in deliverability.
Being
So
delivered.
it's close, um,
I,
but
I,
definitely not where I thought I was gonna be.
I'm curious. Uh, Engineers, I think of as great solvers of puzzles, so I can see the fit with deliverability.
Yeah.
But deliverability, which we'll talk about at length, I'm sure, seems like a less predictable space than a lot of engineering takes place in. Is that fair?
Um, yes, I think so as well. But I think it's like I don't like this term either, but gut feeling as well. I think the more
Yeah.
situations you go through, the more you can instantly tell where the issue's coming from or what could be the cause.
Yeah.
And that's the best part about being an email. Not even deliverability and everything else, right? The more situations you're put in, or the more situations you have to fix, or you learn from other people that have to fix, the easier it becomes to make decisions in the future.
I see.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah,
and
a lot of accumulated knowledge that's not necessarily, in a guidebook.
technical or yeah, it's just you just know, and if people ask you, then you can go on this long-winded explanation of, "Oh, when this happened, that, and then this and that, which means this," and then it just keeps on going. So I like that, and, I'm also very artistic, and I like the so it was nice to have to deal with, machines,
Mhm.
and also to deal with humans that are trying to create these marketing strategies that might not be the best idea on the planet. So being kind of right in the middle, I don't know, it keeps me on my toes. Things change all the time. What I know today is not gonna be there tomorrow probably. So it's ever changing, which is super fun. Nobody
So
I don't like doing the same thing every day.
so if someone's listening to this and their marketing function includes email, but they don't really have the time in the trenches to have touched on deliverability. How would you define that relatively briefly, deliverability itself?
What okay. I'm gonna go one step back and talk about
Okay.
email. So, everybody has played Monopoly at least once in their life. Probably doesn't know the rules, but we know we have to throw the dice, go around. We know get in and out of jail, and we know how to play the game. Now, if you've ever played Monopoly with somebody who knows how to play Monopoly, they're going to win the game. They know how to take all the money from everyone. They know when to make the right decisions. And when it comes to email and deliverability, that's the big problem. We all know how to send emails. We all think we know more about our customers and what they want to receive. But if we don't know how to play the game, we're gonna be penalized whether we like it or we know it or we don't.
Okay.
So deliverability is the art, it is an art, of making, the emails land in the inbox or any of the promotional, update tabs. If it lands in spam or nowhere or junk, then we're considering that the email does not have good deliverability. And this all goes with you as a sender and the relationship you have with your subscribers and the machines that are protecting those subscribers. So that's how I would define deliverability.
Okay.
Um,
Because, you know, if you're outside the email space, the technical part of the email space at least, like there's a temptation to go, you just hit send and it arrives. And obviously it's a little more complicated.
yeah, we would hope after so many years of it existing that it'd be a little bit more complicated than just send, receive.
Why is it
Um,
more complicated than that?
Well, I don't know about you, but I don't like most of the emails I get in my inbox,
Mhm.
and I'm hoping Google just can sniff it out better and better as time progresses.
Mhm.
Um, I don't have enough money to buy more than 1 mattress every so many years, so if you send me another email, I'm just what's the point?
Right, right.
Sometimes, sometimes the issue is also, the people that are making the decisions now used to do our jobs back in the day, and those things don't work anymore,
Yeah.
either because technology has progressed or the things that the audience wants has changed. You know, you might be in business 20 years, your audience doesn't remain constant
Mhm.
over that 20-year period most of the time. I cannot come up with a business that has the same type of audience for 20 years in a row, but people change. Things have to change. And that can sometimes be an issue. I've never seen the word sale or 3 exclamation points be the reason emails don't land in the inbox.
Got it.
Um, it's a lot more than that. There's like the whole secret stuff from that's coming from deliverability is there to protect us.
Yeah.
So, unfortunately, no matter how annoyed we are by these changes that all the mailbox providers are doing, we just kind of have to follow and change the way we're doing things to make sure that we can follow those rules or those changes.
S
You know,
let Stick with me on a little historical trip, and let's see if we get, close in an edifying way. When the specs and protocols under email, which means internet email now, were designed, and that took years. The original objective was to be able for me to get a message to you, relatively reliably, globally universal address. You know, we finally settled on that simple name at domain scheme. So you got that bolted up. And one of the many things amazing about the internet and email was there was no real cost factor
Mm,
involved in sending. And if
yes.
you look at the early history of email, fairly soon, you have people going, "Oh, wait a minute, I can communicate with a lot of people at once. Might be a useful marketing or advertising tool." I think the first email ad was a digital equipment
Yeah. One of the good
operations
computer.
sales guy. Yeah, and he's like, "Ooh, this is really successful. Thank you very much." And we created our own problem, didn't we?
Yeah. What
Not
happened
having
after
a
that?
cost. So,
You know?
so my inbox, your inbox, everyone's is overwhelmed. And here's where I'm going with this. The terrain you work in, deliverability, wasn't necessarily engineered as carefully to do the technical job of putting some brakes and controls on. Like there's not a deliverability RFC number, fill in the blanks. There's a lot of
Maybe.
different parties involved in
Mhm.
determining whether or not my domain can deliver email to your inbox, but it's not particularly straightforward. Am I wrong about that?
No, it's you're absolutely right. The way I talk about deliverability is comparing it to the credit score, the American or Canadian credit score system. We all know how it works, right?
No.
All know how
Yeah.
it works. Well, we pay our bills, we get a better credit score. If we don't pay our bills, it's bad. If you
Yeah.
use a credit card,
Yeah.
stuff is like closing a credit card is counterintuitive. You assume if I don't need the credit card, I don't need, and I close it, why would I be impacted?
Yeah.
But that on the bank side means, well, why can't you manage your money? Why can't you just put Netflix on it every month and just pay the $10 and keep the credit card?
Right.
So that might be counterintuitive if you explain to somebody, says, "Oh, okay, it makes sense why the bank or like your credit score might go down if you close, loans and things like that." Okay, but we don't really know how many points we're gonna lose if I don't pay my AT&T bill this month.
Right.
We just know over time it might affect us. Same thing with deliverability. We know then you know how it works. Don't send spam emails. Don't scam people. Don't clickbait people. Don't do the things you don't like in your inbox
Mhm.
to your own subscribers,
Mhm.
and you're gonna be fine. Now, what does fine mean? 700 credit score or 800? And that's where I come in as a tax lawyer that knows everything and everyone and connects two of them together.
Right.
So that's the
Right.
easiest way for me to explain it.
No, that's actually it's a good analogy because it lets me pick a fight a little bit.
Nice.
One of the things, I mean, as we're speaking, Joe Biden's president of the U.S. One of the many things Biden talked about as a candidate, was the issue of credit scores in the U.S. In the U.S., credit scores are managed by three
Mm,
private companies: TransUnion, Experian, Equifax.
yeah.
And so you've got a fairly vital piece of your personal and financial existence dictated by for-profit companies under quite murky, quite hard to understand sets of rules that ultimately end up, paying to resolve. One of the things Biden said going in is, shouldn't this actually be a more clear-cut government-run thing?
Okay, so pros and cons. So I moved from Montreal to the Netherlands.
Okay.
They don't credit cards here are not real credit cards. You cannot just indefinitely owe a credit card something as long as you're paying a minimum payment.
Yeah.
After X amount of days, the whole credit card, even if you had $1 that was remaining to be paid, the whole credit card gets locked because you went over those couple of days.
Yeah.
Um, I see it that's as a Canadian person, it's like, wow, that's a good idea. I cannot go into debt. No
Right.
one will allow me to be in debt.
Right.
But I needed to buy a MacBook, and I was like, it would have been nice to put in a credit card for
Yeah.
the 2, 3 months.
Yeah.
And then I was like, okay, well, I don't like this anymore. Depending on what situation I was in, I liked or I didn't like the idea.
Yeah.
Of course, like there's 2 points here. All rules don't like if you have one rule, it cannot work for everybody because in my case, I have the money for the MacBook. I just didn't want to save $500 a month and then buy it. I just wanted to buy it now and pay the $500 later.
And use it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not the end of the world. It's not the bank wouldn't have been an issue. But go get a small loan. It's not something I'm used to go get $1,000 loan
Yeah.
that I can pay maybe 2 weeks later. And then there's the other point. Unfortunately, there's rules that are created because there was that one idiot that did it. So you can't bring glass bottles on a balcony or on a terrace. You can't do this because there was one guy, one person that abused the system or did something stupid.
Yeah.
So those 2 points together, I don't know, kind of
Yeah.
nullifies the thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I guess what one of the places I'm driving with that set of questions is it takes specialists like you to help resolve your analogy credit score, the deliverability
Yes.
scoring, which is a constantly changing puzzle. And from a technologist perspective, I find it kind of stupid and poor design that something that important is that randomly structured.
Yeah, well, it's not randomly structured. Some mailbox providers might get angry at us here. Well, one of the issues that we see is that all the mailbox providers don't work the same way. So that already makes it complicated. Hotmail is really keen on Spamhaus. You're on Spamhaus? No, every single email is going to bounce.
Right.
Google, I've seen situations where people are not, they're not scammers, but they're not good senders. Okay.
Yeah.
Sending too many emails. They kind of have consent, but it's not very clear consent, let's say, or million and one things. They're on Spamhaus. Google puts all their emails in the inbox. Everything is green, flying colors. Why? Because they have huge engagement. People love their emails. The business they
Yeah.
were in. Lucky
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
So the mailbox providers don't work the same way. So
Right.
there's no way to streamline it. So we, as a really specialist, just like a tax lawyer would,
Mhm.
or the lawyer of any very rich person, the loops, the hoops you can jump through, who you
Yeah.
can talk to.
Yeah.
So, and that's actually going to bring me to a point, which is my life's work, very young, but I would like for it to be the thing people remember me by. I would like to make this knowledge accessible to everyone. I think it's really, really shitty that big companies that can afford to pay people like me, which we're not a lot of people out there, right? It's not like a job that's you just go to school, you learn it.
Yeah.
We've all answered the question, how did you get into email? Oh, by mistake. I don't think anyone's ever said, I woke up and I said I was going to do email. Like everyone's a mistake, right? So there's a lot of us. Connecting with the right people is very difficult. You have, organizations like MOG that make it very difficult for some businesses, even if they're good businesses, to be part of the event or to meet people that might help them.
Mhm.
Then there's the money problem. There's the fact that people don't even know this exists.
Yeah.
And there's the part of if they know it exists, they can't afford it. They
Right.
cannot find the information where between us are preaching to the choir a little bit sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And to share knowledge between us, which makes us better at what we do. Perfect. But we're not helping other people. So that person is going to, I don't know, MailChimp or HubSpot and is sending emails. And then it's like, email doesn't really work. Maybe the problem wasn't that it didn't work. The problem is that you don't know how it actually works so that you can do the right decisions.
Right.
So that's my goal. I want to make it accessible to everybody. And that's why I talk a lot.
So when someone new to the use of email as a marketing channel makes a lot of the classic mistakes that people new to the channel make.
Yeah.
Like they sign up for a platform to be able to send to a lot of people. They buy a list off the back of a truck. They hit send to a whole bunch of people who never asked for their messages, and then they wonder why nothing's going anywhere, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so they put themselves into technical or communication debt. Back to your analogy for a second, right? The score for their sending domain or their ESP's sending domain or IP addresses got ratcheted way, way, way down. Good
Yeah.
so far. Happens a lot.
Or it happens
Yeah.
a lot without
And you
even knowing it.
without even knowing it.
Lot
Yeah. And
of
you
people
see,
know it. They think they're doing the right thing because it
it,
makes sense. The way we sell our email marketing tools, I
yeah.
mean, have
Yeah.
we ever sold an email marketing have any of us work for a company that's like, "Oh, come to us. We will take care of deliverability for you." That's what we always say. We're gonna take
Yes.
care of it,
Yes.
which means we're taking care of our infrastructure. If you're an idiot, I'm gonna be very insulting. Everyone's gonna hate me. If you're not making the right decisions, you're buying lists, you're doing things you shouldn't do that you didn't know you shouldn't do, probably. There's not much an ESP can do. You can rotate around and change companies. That's not going to help you.
Mm.
And then what do we say? We manage your up. We're going to easily upload your contacts. You're going to easily create a design and you're going to easily press send. What about authentication, list cleaning, segmentation, all these tools that they have where, oh, we have a landing page. Great. I send emails. I don't, okay, let me start building a list, having, knowing what my subscribers want. And then maybe we'll talk about landing pages.
Mm.
It's just, I think there's like a lot of things that are creating um, this black hole of information.
Yeah. Yeah.
We, of course, as an ESP, I'd like for my customers to succeed and grow their list so they can pay me more. The more they
Sure.
send, the more contacts of course. But I would prefer that they can do it without getting angry at me because their deliverability is not going well. Because I never took the time to tell them things. And then they're like, oh, well, I don't like MailChimp. I'm going to HubSpot. Those are not competitors, but let's say they were.
Sure.
It doesn't work that way. Um, in my line of work, I get, and I assume everybody in email actually, people come to me with a problem that they understand that I can fix, but then they don't want to do anything I tell them to do,
Yeah.
and they still want to see change.
Yeah.
And it's like,
Yeah.
isn't that what my mom was telling me? Like, you can't, if you want change, you have to change something. You can't just keep doing the same thing again and again. And it's like this huge ball of information of like, exclamation points make your emails go to spam or promotions tab is a spam box. Do everything you can in your life to move it in the inbox. And it's like we're focusing on the wrong things here.
Yeah.
Let's start by getting Google to accept the email and then we'll figure out where it goes in the inbox.
Yeah.
People don't think about it. And it's also an assumption.
Yeah.
Everybody, especially everybody sends an email and receives the emails. And then we're all, oh, you remember that one time 5 years ago I sent an email, no one got it? We kind of ignore that. Oh, it happens. No, it doesn't just happen. Google didn't lose your email on the way. That's not the post office. There's something that happened and we kind of learn to ignore it. Oh, whatever. Let me just send it again.
Right.
You know?
Right. 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 You've mentioned him a couple of times. I wonder if I'd like to delve into it a little bit. Let's start with the inbox providers. You touched on Outlook, Hotmail, Google, Yahoo. Am I correct that there's an increased concentration of inboxes? It's not a bazillion different email clients. It's sort of
Yeah.
fewer serving more and more.
Exactly. So, we're in the tool that we have, in Email Console, we have like the Yahoo, we're doing seed listing, one of the features, and we have like Yahoo and AOL and Verizon because that's what people want.
Yeah.
But behind it, it's the same company, it's the same
Yeah.
spam filter. So
Yeah.
if you have an issue with one, you're gonna have an issue with the other. So
Yeah.
testing one of them
Yeah.
would have been enough.
Yeah.
And customers like, no, we want every single inbox. We want to see if their emails inbox in China. And we're like, do you send to China? No. Well, okay. So then we have to start educating the customer. Like, this is how spam filters work. But it is true, though. It is interesting to do seed listing tests with various types of inboxes when you know which ones you're looking for,
Mm.
because you know what each of them is looking for. So you might not be sending to Germany, but they really care about, consent. They care about content.
Mhm.
especially adult themed things are very, very strict on that. So if you were, for example, in the adult industry and you sent emails to GMX, they would immediately block the email or let you know that they don't accept this kind of content, which can make you think, oh, maybe I should blur the pictures. Maybe I should be more soft in my tone
Yeah.
because it might not be as important somewhere else, but it's definitely is important. Content, of course, is important, right? Google has worked on engagement. They definitely care
Yeah.
about engagement. So
Yeah.
whatever your strategy thinking of how to get people through social media, same thing with Google. Just that the problem is not that people are not going to see your pictures, that they're not going to get the email. We don't want that. Hotmail is and we're still trying to figure out what Hotmail is doing. I think a lot of people have issues with Hotmail, but they're IP based. That's how they give you information.
Okay.
So they care where you're sending from, and where you're sending from can also show what type of sender you are.
Mhm.
And then they're really cutting down on authentication. Finally, DMARC's been pushed, and they're reading it. Um, they care about the content, and they definitely care about your list. Your lists are key. The list is the most important factor that's gonna hurt your sender reputation.
So if
People
by that you mean if if I've got a list of 1,000 uh, and I got them from the wrong place, and some of the addresses on the list are
bouncing
they're bouncing and
or reported as spam or, like
or
spam traps in there.
spam traps. So spam, could you define a spam trap right quick?
Oh, so a spam trap is an email address that's created just for the sole purpose of catching senders who don't have consent.
Right, right,
So
right.
they're hidden on LinkedIn, they're hidden on websites, they're hidden all over the place,
Yeah,
and there's not one spam trap network, there's a lot of them.
yeah,
No matter how much, technical list hygiene cleaning you're doing, with Bouncer or tools like that, they cannot catch them all
right,
because there's millions being created every week. There's no way you can foretell, and they'll find some of them. Of course, they can tell certain things, but they won't find them all. And it takes
right.
one spam trap to know what you're doing. Just
And
one.
the entities creating
Yeah.
spam trap addresses, this is the email industry, broad strokes, self-policing, right?
Yes, it is self-policing and it is security based. It's a security part of email, let's say, not in terms of protecting who's receiving emails, but just kind of knowing, like the bank reporting to Equifax that you didn't pay your loan this month. It's just that we know this. The people who are listening or paying for those services to know who's a good sender or a bad sender make their own decisions based on that. So I know that certain people they will give the information to specific parties like the mailbox providers or the ESPs so that they can be more secure. They can fire customers maybe, or they can block emails. But the way they use this information is up to the mailbox provider, which is why Gmail is not going to necessarily put your emails, block your emails
Right.
because you're on Spamhaus. Microsoft decided that if you're on Spamhaus DBL, every single email is going to bounce. So they have the information. What they do with that information is different because different scammers or different spammers, like real spammers, the definition we think of a spammer is doing different things to different people.
Yeah,
So they're protecting their own customers that
yeah,
way.
yeah.
Uh, and by spammer, we can define that. So a real spammer is somebody that's sending unsolicited emails. So if I sign up to Walmart and I give them my consent, I gave them consent for emails. I didn't give them consent for 100 emails a day. They would become spammers technically if they're doing something that I'm not agreeable that I think is unsolicited. On top of the fact that spammers are also people who buy, just try to scam you out of your money and so much. But that usually tends to be a scammer. Spammer is just, I don't want your email.
Hmm.
Well,
It's
yeah.
it's a
So we're all
tough self-policing job, right?
kind
Because if you sign up your example, sign up for Walmart and someone at Walmart decides to send 5 a day and you didn't want 5 a day.
I think I'd report it as spam.
Right, right. Which is reported how, like roughly speaking.
Oh, okay. So it to me, it works like a bounce.
Okay,
So, you write an email to somebody, you make a typo in the email, inbox says, "Hey, we couldn't deliver XYZ reason."
right,
Same thing with the feedback loop. But the cool part about the feedback loops or the part that everybody doesn't know about is that the mailbox provider is not obligated to tell you who reported your email as spam,
yeah,
which
yeah,
is the best thing. And everybody's like, "What?" Because I don't have a lot of spam complaints. Of course you don't. Your list is 99% Gmail and Gmail doesn't tell you.
right. Okay,
And then What that
Doesn't
means.
mean there are no complaints is what you're saying.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
It doesn't mean there's no complaints. It just means that they're not returned to you like a bow and say, hey, this is the person that complained.
Yeah.
And this is not a mail, this is not a ESP problem.
Yeah.
This is a mailbox problem. The easiest thing, you go to online, you write MOG, FBL, spam. And the first link you're going to see is going to be explained to you which inboxes give you that information,
Yeah.
which inboxes tell you on a domain. So, it's like a percentage. 3% of the Gmail people said spam. Which ones? I don't know. And which ones don't tell you anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
And unfortunately, the companies you would assume would give you the information are not on the list of people are giving you information. They're on
Yeah.
the ones telling you based on your domain. So like today, we received 100 emails and 3% of those complained. And that really, really hurts people because then the question comes in, right? Then how do I clean my list? And how do I this? How do I that? The open rates are not a good metric. They never were. Nothing changed. Apple just announced it because it's Apple. If Yanna-Torry went on LinkedIn and said, open rates are almost worthless, or you have to be very strategic when you're looking at them, grain of salt, no one would have listened to me. But Apple said it to everyone's like, oh my God, we've been the stuff that they've introduced has been happening. We don't know to what extent and all the mailbox providers, how they do it specifically, but it's been happening. So if you made your decisions in the past based on your opens and your clicks and your engagement, you can still do it. Just now you can do it with the right mindset. You know how it works. You can look maybe for the outliers when you're looking at your statistics to make decisions. But the spam complaint one is usually a new one. People don't know that the mailbox providers don't tell you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's a shock because like, oh my God, what do I do? I think the answer is easy, or logical.
But you're the specialist.
Exactly.
Right? You mentioned him a couple of times. Spamhaus.
Yes.
Who's that and who's that? What's their role and who said that's their role?
They're also self-policing. They're making their own decisions, and the company's growing. But it's an organization of very secure people that are trying to do something good for the world, whatever they think is good for the world. So, like Google think engagement is important, Hotmail thinks your spam traps are a big problem. They are the police or the FBI of one of them, depends how you're looking at it,
Yeah.
of email.
Yeah.
They're just trying to give the people who need to make decisions, like the spam filters or the email marketing software providers, more data. Unfortunately, with email, we don't have that much information, or it's not concentrated in one place, which is the real issue. You have the information, but you have to go to like 25 different places. Some of them is also secured, so you don't have access to it at all. And Spamhaus has created some things that they're looking for. And then whenever they see it happening, they can then let somebody else know, hey, we see this domain, they're sending to spam traps. Therefore, we can assume strongly they don't have consent. Let's block it. People always see the negative side of it. I like to see the positive side of it. If I did a contest for my company, for example, and a bunch of people signed up and I sent an email when the contest ended and I ended up on Spamhaus DBL, it would let me know that maybe my form was abused. Somebody injected emails in my thing. Maybe I should look back at my list. Maybe it didn't grow 30,000 subscribers overnight. Maybe things were injected. It also allows me to protect myself. Just like a bank calls you to make sure you're the one doing the big payment on your credit card. It's annoying because the payment failed and you have to call the bank and let them know it was you. But I do like knowing that that protection is there.
Mm.
And Spamhaus just monitors things that they think are important to them.
Mm.
And they're able to give that information to the right parties. Whoever wants that information pays for it so that they can make better decisions.
Hmm.
They're doing it in a secretive way because they don't want us to reverse engineer how it works. That's the big problem in the secrecy in email, I think, is that one of the big secret problems is that if we were to explain to the T how it works, then people would be able to go around it. If I know how it works, I'll just not do that, right? So they're trying to let you figure out on your own, case by case, what
Yeah.
you need to do when something happens
Yeah. Yeah.
based on what you're monitoring.
It's interesting that one of the natural sources of analogy and explanation that both of us have touched on even in the past half hour is credit and finance and that world is sort of analogous, a way to understand things. But banking regulations are written down into law,
Yeah.
and Spamhaus decision are private company in Andorra.
Yes.
making decisions about what's good and bad. And I question, it's self-policing, but I kind of question whether that should be okay.
Do you really? Okay.
Yeah.
Um, we can talk. We're going to talk about so many things. um, when it comes to the regulations of the bank, who decides them and why and how many of those regulations were not made for the small people and were made for just specific cases and for specific people to hide money, pay less taxes, or whatever the regulations
Yeah.
are, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't think. Yeah, I think.
But in short, a governed process by elected representatives, different in the Netherlands than in
Yes,
Canada than in the
of course.
US, but
Mhm.
there's sort of a clear chain of, I voted that dork into office, he voted on this bill, that bill affected how fill in the blanks works in
Yeah.
banking regs. There's not such a clear chain of influence to, let's say, Spamhaus or even to Google's decision about this
But they're
should go in this
not.
folder or not.
They don't get to decide whatever they want without the whole community as well, more or less being on their side. If the email community ever feared abuse,
Mhm.
we would shut the well, I don't know how we would shut them down, but we would do something about it. And it's not going to be Yanna-Torry that's angry at Spamhaus. It's
Mm.
going to be the whole community. On top of that, Spamhaus is not making decisions. They're just raising a flag. That's up to Google to decide if they wanna listen to that flag, and they don't necessarily 100%.
Due deference, I disagree with you about that last statement because there's a value judgment even in an algorithm. Technology is not value neutral.
Oh, of course, yeah, 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 but they
Yeah.
don't
So
look at
there's
it
a
like
decision,
Hotmail does. Yeah, but Google made the decision, not Spamhaus. Spamhaus monitors. Spamhaus says, "We know you sent to a spam trap.
but
We'll let it know."
choosing the threshold of a monitor is a decision. Choosing what to report is
Yes,
a
it is
decision.
research, and it
Yeah.
changes over time.
Yeah.
Just like, then we can start arguing about how does Google decide what email is spam and not? We can
Yeah.
just continue going that way, but unfortunately, that's not gonna end in anything
And
at all.
it's not gonna get published either, to your earlier
No,
point, right?
no, it's not gonna be published. It's I think what we're already doing as deliverability specialists, we're already reverse engineering. We know what the laws want. We know what people want. We want what the inboxes are trying to protect people from. Therefore, we can assume logically what we should not do, right?
Mm.
Or what we should do in order for them to like us. Um, that's literally what it is,
Yeah,
which
that's
is
literally
like,
what it
well, in America we can buy lists and da, da, da. It's like I get it, but the law allows it, but Google doesn't. Who is
right,
Google to decide that they're above the American law?
right, right. Good question. Well, they can, just I'll run with that. They can because there's not a whole lot of actual law around this particular domain we're talking about, email, right? There
Yeah, because
Apple
it's a gray area. What is spam?
very gray area, right? Apple didn't break any laws when they said we'll handle images and pixels differently than the way they've been handled in the past. I mean, plenty of squawking from people who depended on some of the data back from that, but honestly, Apple didn't have to answer anybody with that decision, did
Yeah,
they?
I know.
Yeah,
I would have liked a very organized way for email. We probably wouldn't be making as much money, maybe. I don't
sure.
know.
Maybe. I
But
don't know.
or I don't know, there's not a lot of us out there. But still, it will people will be able to figure it out on their own. The
Mhm.
issue that this is something far beyond, is Walmart annoyed that they couldn't send me 5 emails when there's other types of, because we're talking about normal businesses that, just like to send a little bit of emails or get some new leads.
Sure.
Nothing bad. It's not perfect. I don't like it in my inbox, but it's not the end of the world.
Yeah.
But in order to catch all those really, really, really bad, what is it like I don't remember the percentage,
Yeah.
but it's a really big percentage of the
Yeah.
amount of actual scammy
Actual scam.
scam,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
It's it's humongous. So this is where it comes, I think, to the somebody did something bad and now everybody's paying for it.
Mhm.
The scammers and the spammers and the blah, blah, blah are doing things. And now Google's like, well, let's reduce the amount of emails. And if they are not allowed to do it, maybe normal businesses too are not allowed to do it.
Mhm.
And then the laws came into place and then every inbox is different. And now, like, for example, I don't know if it's going to happen or not, but Europa is trying to enforce that every single mailbox provider in Europe has to look at authentication. You know, most inboxes don't look at it. I mean, even Hotmail wasn't even giving us DMARC reports before what, last November, October, which is Hotmail, why weren't you giving us this information?
Mhm.
I'm putting a DMARC policy reject, and you take it as maybe we'll we'll listen to your reject.
Mhm.
No, when I say reject, you reject it. Oh well, now it's taken seriously. But what does that mean for all the mailbox providers? Th- they weren't doing it not because they didn't want to. They didn't have the resources to do it. They don't have the capacity to look at that kind of data, to
Yeah.
report, to blah, blah, blah. So the government or the Europa or whatever, they're gonna shut down so many mailbox providers.
Yeah.
Which means that the Hotmails and the Googles are they're gonna usually it's Hotmail, I think, is gonna swoop in and buy the mailbox providers and your I don't know, your ad Videotron or your ad Ziggo or whatever inbox and lookout authentication is gonna end up being a Hotmail. I think that's a little bit annoying.
Well, it
And
it leads
it
it's
doesn't
even more
impact anybody, but it will at some point. Businesses don't not all of us know what authentication is.
so
You're
so that'll
already
lead that particular issue, let's say regulatory requirement to handle authentication will lead to increased inbox consolidation?
I think it will,
Yeah.
on top of the fact that senders will not be able to inbox as well anymore. Legitimate senders that were doing things perfectly fine,
Yeah.
even to my super strict deliverability standards, which are stricter than the mailbox providers, by the way, usually because we really want to make sure everything's okay and people can pivot.
Yeah.
But still, um, oh, which is why I created a group that does it for free, because it's like the first, gap. It's the middle class is disappearing, and the same thing will happen in email. I would be very disappointed if people felt the impact and they didn't know what they had to do, and nobody told them. It's like you buy a car and nobody in the whole world knows that you have to change your oil.
Right.
So you go to the mechanic and the mechanic, me, tells you, "Please just do it." And they're like, "No, no, no, no one's ever told me that." You still have to do it though. "No, no, no, I'd rather just buy a new car." That's, I think, is what's going to happen. And I'm very, very scared for everybody else because I know a lot of friends that are opening businesses. They're buying their first domain and they're sending the first few emails. And if it became regulatory and the inboxes had to, I'm sorry, my dog is playing outside. Um, she, not Luna. The people would not land in the inbox anymore, especially if it became mandatory. Can
Right.
you imagine?
Right.
Whoa.
Would that be is that a case of, well-intentioned but not fully informed regulation?
I think it's kind of like we have to do something about it.
Okay.
So it's like we'll do it, and then there's gonna be another big Apple wave like GDPR and Castle and all those things. It's gonna be a big news thing, and we'll let people know then. I just don't understand why we can't let people know now.
Mm. Hmm.
Why does the law have to change for people for mailbox sorry, ESPs or and mailbox providers to force authentication?
Yeah,
Why aren't
that's actually what
one click integration? So you can do your Google tags and everything with one click and you sign into GoDaddy and it just works.
yeah.
And you can't do that for for email? Come on, man.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I mean, you're on to what I was intending with that earlier question, which is sort of we got regulations pushing technology adoption where this the the engineering is not there, the standards aren't there
Yeah,
yet, and the small, let's say, inbox provider in your example, who says, "Wait a minute, I have to do
yeah,
what? I just lost, two developers because someone's paying more. I can't do it."
yeah.
And they're out of business, right?
Yeah,
And
email is no one gets a budget for it. And we always talk about marketing. We don't get budget. We don't get budget for it for anything. People don't wanna they want me to solve their problems, but they don't wanna have to hire me. They don't
right,
believe in and I always
it
make the
should
joke, it's not a religion, okay, guys? It's technology. It's been there for a while. You guys are doing it, I'm doing it. What is there to believe?
yeah,
And especially the release specialists, not that we barely do anything, but most of the time, we're just repeating what Google wants. And then you're shooting the messenger because I didn't call Google and made them do the rules.
right,
I'm just telling you what the rules are. And
right.
people immediately get offended. I don't know what there is to be offended by. Just don't send emails to people who don't want them.
Do
But they
do
want them.
do we tend to have a model in our head, rightly or wrongly, that email just works because 'cause I've been sending email forever,
Ah.
and I get
Um,
frustrated if I can't just send?
mhm.
Yeah,
I've been doing this for X amount of years and I never had a problem.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
well, Google did an update and now you have a problem. So
yeah, and now you have a problem. Well, honestly, we saw that different history side trip, but a, a similar kind of wrenching change in a formerly fairly open playing field called the World Wide Web. I mean, there was time you hung out a website and people visited it. And now I would guess the SEO budget, which is bowing to the search engine gods, is more important than the content itself. Because if it's not going to get found or it's going to get ranked low, it doesn't matter if you've got a website, right? And
I know.
there's a constant guesswork. You look at the whole industry of SEO, it's kind of analogous to deliverability in
Yeah.
a sense. Like you've
Oh,
got this whole industry of specialists who are playing this constant puzzle solving guessing game about what a handful of companies might do with tomorrow's release that's going to screw all their clients. Well, my site doesn't show up anymore. Yeah, that's right. It doesn't. Sorry.
and also we forget, like, we are almost, like, preaching, Google and security and stuff, but they also make mistakes.
Yes, they do. Yeah. Yeah.
So we have to add that in the mix, and then that's, I guess, where people, um, just done with it.
Uh,
Like,
yeah.
Instagram, I'm gonna go become a millionaire with Instagram. Like, okay, you go do that. You just let me know how it goes.
We're going way down the rabbit hole. Let's try a different one just for fun. Bill Gates said back in the late '90s, and it might have been in his Road Ahead book, but he said he wished that, if and I'm paraphrasing, he said he wished that in the engineering e- of internet email, that it actually been built so there was a tiny cost per send, so that if someone decides to be a bad actor and a spammer, there's actually some friction in the system to prevent the abuse that creates many of the problems that we're trying to self-police around.
But are
Reactions?
aren't we aren't, like, scammers buying lists with fake credit cards and then going to, like, Bouncer and then or any other list cleaning or whatever tool, and then using another fake credit card to clean their list and then go scam people? I mean,
Yeah, I don't doubt that. But if, if it cost a penny per send and all ESPs had to
expensive.
what's that?
It still wouldn't be that expensive, would it?
Wouldn't,
For, like, the 40%, even if it's gone down to 30, which I don't think it has,
yeah,
30% return, but the thing is that the 30% return, I would love to know return on what?
return on
Does
what?
it
Yeah,
include the employees? Does it include only the tool that I'm paying?
yeah,
What about the expensive deliverability specialist? Does that
yeah,
include, I don't know. But 40% is high, even if it was a quarter of that. 10% is a lot of money for an email,
yeah.
and the less you send, the more the ROI will go up. I'm just saying.
Mhm.
Sending a million times a day, it's gonna cost more to get the customer. If you just sent to the 3 people that wanted your mattress, the ROI would skyrocket way over.
Or it would skyrocket, right? So if you knew who they were, which is
Yeah.
part of the marketing side of the
Yeah.
puzzle, and if you knew that they hadn't bought a mattress yesterday, which is a huge problem, right? Display ads following me around because I was shopping for
Yeah.
hiking boots. I'm like, I bought them enough with the
Like,
hiking
how
boots.
many more am I gonna buy?
Yeah,
Like,
right. I only have
but
2 feet.
okay.
Sorry, right?
Yeah, I don't know. I always like to tell people, I mean, it's just like logic. Just sit down and look at your, like, yellow rubber duck kind of thing, or look at yourself in the mirror and say, "Does my client need 27 emails this week?"
yeah, yeah,
Oh, it
yeah,
we have this, like, the more we send, the more no, the more you send, the more chances you get. That's it. It doesn't mean that the more you send correlates into more money. It just means you have more chances.
yeah.
So why not? And and then I love to tell people, like, well, you can just chance it and send all those emails and chance who Google decides going to get the email. Because the one power of email, I think, is that you get to decide who sees what message. When you're doing social media ads, you are telling Google who you would like for it to see it, and then you're hoping Google shows it to the people who fit the bill. With email, I decide. So why would I do whatever I want, send emails, and then let somebody else decide again if my email should land in the
Yeah,
inbox or not?
yeah, 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 yeah. And with to take your analogy and expand it just slightly, with those other channels, you actually pay to get the chance of exposure to someone interested in X or someone like
Yeah.
group Y, not the specific Yanna-Torry signed up for my list. I'm going to send her a message about the thing I think she's interested in, and we're at least trying to do a one-to-one
Yeah.
thing. Yeah,
I
yeah,
gave you my consent, I gave you my attention, I went to your website, I purchased something, I almost purchased something. There's a relationship there. There's something you can gain from me, and that's the whole point of email as well.
mm,
Like, the email is the message to get people to do something. It's not
mm,
the whole thing. And most of the time, we want something beyond that. If it's just informational, I get it, but most of the time, I want them to buy something, come to an event, look on my website, read my blog post. So if I put the blog in the email, I'm not getting traffic on my website. I'm not getting all the other things I would like from the customer. Email is just there to
mm.
bring and push a customer, remind people you exist and get them to do something. Of course, if you're a lawyer, maybe you're not going to get some return customers depending on the type of lawyer you are. But
Yeah.
the SaaS or the e-commerce, which is usually the people who are having all these issues, um, don't you want something from your people? Or do you just, oh, I have a 100% open rate. Cool. Do you make any sales? No. Who cares?
Mm, mm. Yes, but
Yes.
Substack,
Oh my god, what is
the
happening there?
the email, the content in the message is the point, isn't it?
Yeah, but
So
that's
that's
the one-time thing, but the deliverability is sharing a domain, it's just not a good idea.
right,
It's not
right,
good.
right, right, right,
But yeah,
right.
but that's their goal. So
That's their
people are
goal.
engaged with them. But what happens? Even if you pay for something,
Mm,
how many services do I pay for, like Netflix and Prime and Disney, and then I use the one I wanna use,
mm,
and I keep paying the rest?
mhm.
People still need to look and see, like, there has to be a life cycle or an amount of time, no matter how much I love your emails. Like, and I have a lot of people that I follow. I look for them in my inbox. Still don't have the time to read them all.
Sure. Yeah,
Even
yeah,
they
yeah,
should at some point realize, hey, this guy was really interested. He loved my information, Bitcoin, cryptocurrency, whatever you're talking about. Okay, he's educated enough and now he's not in that little thing anymore.
yeah,
Which is the same problem with people who do how do you call them? The job listings.
yeah,
People don't need jobs 20 like most of the time, don't need a job alert for the 52 full weeks of the year.
yeah,
I might be bored at work, I'm unhappy, my boss said something to me today. Oh, no,
yeah,
screw this, I'll find another job. And then I subscribe to the alerts. After 2 weeks, unless I got an interview or I'm probably not gonna until I'm angry again or I wanna move again.
yeah,
We need to really understand our customers and because then you're not gonna need somebody like me.
yeah. Well, it does strike me with what you just said about, like, job listings email. It does strike me that there's a fairly weak design in this, uh, set of standards we call email on the feedback side. It's pretty difficult for me to tell someone I'm interested, I'm not. And you could say, well, you can always unsubscribe. Well, yeah, but that's a binary yes, no permanent thing. And what if I have no easy way to say, I want to hear from you a quarter as much as you want to talk to me, right? There's just no easy way, no standardized way to do that, is there?
No, there isn't. I have so many analogies. Maybe that's why boners send me. I don't know. Or maybe they don't. We'll see. We built a cell phone. Email is a smartphone that we built.
Mm.
And then we gave it to a really, 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 really old person that lived, under a rock. And then we said, this works like a pager.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that is our fault.
Yeah.
Because email is a two-way communication, street, road, whatever the expression is I'm looking for here.
Yeah.
You send an email, you can reply to it.
Yeah.
Like,
But
what?
most,
It's
I
great
I
looking.
agree with you. But most
Not in
email
all cases.
marketers,
Say, like, of course, like, maybe not every single case you should reply back an email, but you can ask them for reviews, you can ask them for pictures, you can ask them for which you can use then for free social media posts and whatever you need in your business. It's the ultimate thing you can show to an inbox. Of course, my email is wanted. This crazy lady responded back to it. This is the best thing you wanna show, paying your bills on time or paying a loan in, like, under 30 seconds. That probably looks good on your credit score.
but you can't, I'm hooking in earlier, something you said earlier. What you can't do, at least not easily, is buy something with email.
No. I think we could. I think a lot of businesses are doing it correctly. They've cracked the nut.
Yeah.
But in general, I think the vast majority, 'cause, 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 'cause is figuring out what they're going to send based on a calendar that they created and of things that are happening.
Yeah.
And then they're creating content to
Yeah.
entice people.
Yeah.
And that's when they start thinking about people.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, I'm preparing a podcast actually, and we're talking about Black Friday in June.
Mhm.
There's things you need to prepare about. But no one thinks about it. The Black Friday starts and now starting early and earlier. Um,
Mhm.
the emails and the amount of emails. And I mean, I don't know what I feel that the fear of missing out has left the Black Friday thing. It was a one day thing. And I remember like years ago when
Yeah.
I was younger and I was trying to buy a TV or something and I was
Yeah.
like, oh,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's Canada. And it sucks.
Yeah.
Black Friday sucks. It's not American.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not the same. Um, and then it was like, oh, you give me 20% off.
Yeah.
Cool. There's gonna be 20% off Christmas, and there's gonna be one on Valentine's Day, and there's gonna be one on my birthday, and there's gonna be one in September, and there's gonna be one for back to school. There's gonna be
Yeah.
then what's the strategy here, guys?
Yeah.
Reminding people of holidays. We know they know when there's a holiday. They
They know
probably
it's a
got a
holiday, yeah.
vacation.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think we start thinking about the people that we want to manipulate into buying something or get something out of them too late in the cycle of decision making. What are we going to do this year to grow our business? We're going to go do this, or we're going to go do that. I'm going to do that. And then we're going to send them one shitty email to remind them it's Valentine's Day. Like, really? Like,
Yeah,
they
really.
know,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And like all those good things you're talking about. Like, I remember the women of email were talking about this nice email they received before Mother's Day. Would you like to opt out for Mother's Day email?
Yeah.
And now it's become the total opposite. People are talking about it so much that what was the point of it to begin with? And it's just like, come on, guys. Like we all know what we don't like. The spam filters are here to help us not receive what we don't like. So when we're on the other side and we're the sender, why do we do the things we don't like?
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
And I get it, like budgets and changing the company. Like I understand the bigger picture here. But at the end of the day, when you're having a meeting and you're trying to see why numbers don't match or they're not going where they're supposed to go, unfortunately, you have to take like a million steps back and start from the beginning. Is this the right thing that we're doing?
Mm. Mm.
Doing something for a very long time doesn't mean that it's a good thing. I don't know if it's like a older way of thinking, like we tended to stay at jobs for longer in our careers. We didn't, now the whole thing is like move around, get a raise. And I don't know if that as well is instilled into it. So people have been in businesses for a very long time. So they understand the bigger picture of their own little business, their own business, sorry. And then they go and they make the decisions, and they're making the decisions like they were before based on facts and things they've done in the past. And now this crazy lady from Canada is like, oh, it's all wrong. Google doesn't like you anymore. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I've been doing this. I started from the bottom and went all the way to the top. Of course, I know what my business wants. It's just I don't think Google cares about your business in particular. That's the thing. They care about their business, which is us, the subscribers.
Yeah. Yeah.
We need to factor that in the decisions. If we just knew, I think we would make decisions differently. I feel when I talk to people and I educate them and they're like, oh, crazy lady, email. Okay, let's listen to her. They end up making the right decisions without even realizing that they're doing it correctly, let's say, or that they are thinking about the customer first. So that's why I think making the information accessible to people will help them make better decisions. If they understood how email actually works,
Mhm.
when does deliverability come into play? People might know about warm up, but a warm up's not going to save you if everybody's reporting your email as spam.
Mhm.
You're just slowly ramping up to your spam complaints. And when you tell them that as a joke, oh yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So it's this image that we have of email. Oh, the dog came running in. There's the image of what we think email is on top of we've done things for a certain time. Then we have the companies that are selling us certain things, like editors and lists. And deliverability or everything that affects it and your sender reputation is like a black hole of information.
Hmm.
So you go back to the things things you can count, things you can calculate, things you can, and we don't dig deeper. But I would love to know how to play Monopoly for real, and one day I will learn. One friend that really knows how to play, I know how to throw the dice and pick up cards and just, keep the game going. So that's, I think, how for email is just that's gonna be the revolutionary thing. If people understood that it was a little bit more complicated and gave it as much attention as every time Instagram changes their algorithm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my
Yeah.
God, 3 images, not 30 hashtags anymore. The maximum is 7, or I don't know.
Whatever. Yeah.
Why doesn't anybody do that about email? Everybody sends emails, and it's the easiest thing to do.
Why? Yeah. Why is it that everyone in email will argue the highest ROI digital marketing channel, email, seems to be at the bottom of the pecking order in so many companies? Like, how come?
I think all of them. If you look, a lot of the Email Geek Slack channel, people complain with the same thing. Like, oh my God, I had this idea and did this. I would have needed like 3 hours. Why can't they tell them, give me 3 hours to make them millions of
Yeah.
dollars?
Yeah.
Um, that's the thing. It's the image that we have of email. It's the assumption, you know, we assume everything about email because everybody does it. People don't remember how we used to create inboxes back in the day, right? It wasn't an email and a password. It was like we had to set things up. And then everybody came in and started doing things for us. So we just, send emails, or we know how it works. You put an email address, subject line, don't even need one, and you press send. And that's what we know.
Yeah.
And we know what we don't like.
Yeah. 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 So it's
We don't even know how many emails Google's not even showing us.
right.
And we're still pissed about what we're seeing in our inboxes.
Right. And we're all exhausted by our own inbox.
Yeah.
Like, I'm honestly exhausted.
Not
Like,
sexy,
oh
like social
God.
media, you know. It's just, and it's, I don't know, like, of course we carry over like email. Come on, guys. It makes total sense. Um, but yeah, it's the image, or the idea of email. It's old, it's been there, it's easy, it's Google Doc, or like it's like Microsoft Word in the format of a letter, I can
Yeah.
get information and I can shoot information and
Yeah. 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 Well, and there's no figurehead company in the emails,
so
right?
we don't even have a figurehead person. We have one amongst us. We know who
Yeah.
who's the Neil Patel of email.
Yeah, you're right.
I'd
You're
like
right.
to be that one
Yeah,
day.
right. Well, I bring him up frequently. There's a newsletter that I pay to get every month,
Okay.
happily pay. Like, the content that I get in the inbox is why I pay, because the guy writes a ton. He writes well. He's incredibly smart, et cetera, et cetera. And there's no commercial incentive aside from me continuing to subscribe,
Yes.
right? There's no links, there's no ads, there's no nothing. I'm like, interesting, but it's completely the quality of his thinking and writing that makes me continue to pay. So in that super narrow channel, I think of him as not an email rock star, content rock star, perhaps.
It's just
But
valuable to you.
yeah, valuable to me. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Valuable to me. But yeah, there are no Neil Patels of the inbox that, oh yeah,
No.
everybody knows they're brilliant. They're amazing. And every time they
Yeah.
hit send, right, the cash registers ring and
Oh,
crowds
even
celebrate
somebody
and
who
stuff.
knows.
Yeah.
Hey, Google updated it. Like Google updates their spam filters a million times a year, but there's some updates that seem to impact more the changes. So something that they thought was okay might not be okay today.
Yeah.
Therefore, if you're doing that thing that was okay but not okay anymore, you're gonna have a problem, and then I'm gonna have a problem. So I'm gonna have to argue with the customer and try to make them believe in
Yeah.
how technology works. Um, I don't know. Who's gonna tell these people that? So we tell each other, right?
Yeah.
We're gonna immediately tell each other. I'm gonna immediately tell my friends, "Hey, I see this. Do you see the same thing on your end?" And then we try to find. We're trying to. That's what we're trying all to do. We're trying to reverse engineer what the change was and
Yeah.
see what's gonna. Is it a mistake? Was it a problem? Is it actually a change? Is it there to stay? So we monitor. Um, but there's no one telling the email muggles,
Yeah.
"Hey, Google did something.
Yeah.
Why don't you just double check your list one last time, or your engagement, or your Google Postmaster," which another thing people don't know about.
Yeah.
A lot of the Equifax, you have to pay $3 a month. Most of the deliverability stuff are free, if not all. And you can, if you send enough emails, get the information. What does
Yeah.
Microsoft think of you? What does Google think of you?
Yeah. Yeah.
Now I'm going to assume here the American market, that's the only two you really care about. I mean,
Yeah.
anybody really cares about AT&T anymore. Maybe me. It's just if your list is 99% one thing, you can monitor your block lists. You can monitor your reputation with the important inboxes, and whatever they like or they don't like, the other inboxes are probably not going to like or like.
Yeah.
The idea is the same. How they do it is different, of course, but the idea is the same. So just don't be a spammer. Don't be annoying. If your own parents don't want to read your own emails, probably your customers don't. My mom loves to read everything I do. If she gets bored of what I do at some point, like, I need to fix something. It's normal. Like if you don't like sometimes that's something this activity I like doing is do you subscribe to your own company emails? No? Okay, let's just for 1 week subscribe you to your own company emails. And then the first couple of days they remember, right? And they're gonna go look and then give it a week or two, they completely forget about it. And they're like, oh
Yes.
look at that.
Look at that. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. Or
0% open.
would you sign your mother up for your company emails and and so on? Yeah. Yeah. It's good self-test. It's difficult, especially when it's a company talking, to to keep that that's what I'm looking for. Good actor, good manners, fidelity. This is sidebar but relevant. Had a guest on this podcast a couple weeks ago who does very well with his email program. Not a huge list, but it's very personal. Like he writes everything. He's got a very distinctive writing style. And his customers love what he sends them. I'm
Yeah,
like, you know what? That's cool. A lot of companies don't send anywhere nearly as interesting a content as this one man shop does. It's got this sort of corporate voice and sell, sell, sell. And as you said, it's like they're always telling me what holiday is coming. I know what holiday is coming. Thanks. You don't need to tell me that. It's just an excuse for you to flog your whatever you're trying to sell. And it's
exactly.
not interesting at all.
Yeah. Yeah,
Sometimes you catch me in a good mood, maybe I'll buy something, but that's pretty arbitrary versus I really
exactly.
look forward to the email from, Yanna-Torry about deliverability issues. Why? Because it's distinctive voice. It's very informed. It's useful to me and
Yeah.
so on.
Quick, because if they were too long, maybe like, okay, I like one email, two emails, but I have to take the time out of my day to read them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Some people have the time to do that, like when I got the when I got access to Email Geek Slack channel the first time, I don't think I worked for like a month after that. I was like, "Mm." I was just like reading and scrolling, and what do you mean? And then I just got lost, and then at some point now I feel like I'm not on it enough. And
Yeah.
it's just like, okay, I'm getting my information from other places. LinkedIn has been Twitter and LinkedIn has been a place people have been going to, and I don't feel I'm at the same stage I was years ago. Or I I changed my phones and I didn't have Slack on it for a while until I had a customer that needed it again. And until
Yeah.
then, situational things happen and we
Yeah.
forget about. It's like, Yanna-Torry loves my brand. Of course she's going to buy. Yeah, okay, but maybe something's happening in my life right now,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I'm not going to do that. We things are constantly changing, and me, I'm just here to mediate and to point you in a direction and tell you what you need to fix. Also, I can get more information, but at the end of the day, the company's the one that needs to be asking all these questions. Is my content relevant? Do I need to send this email? Because that would give your email team maybe not a bigger budget, but to give them more time. If they didn't have to concentrate to create those redundant emails,
Right.
they might be able to create these phenomenal emails that they're going to send to 1% of your list, but it's going to bring 10%,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
10% more than any other kind of email.
Yeah. And
Uh,
time is budget.
it is.
If the email, I've yet to talk to someone whose function is email marketing who seems like they've got time to do it the way they want. They seem like
Ha,
the busiest
I
beavers
wish.
on the planet most of the time, right?
Yeah.
Hey, side question for you since you mentioned it. One of the early sort of uh, positioning and growth things that drove Slack was we Slack are going to replace email, and I don't think they pitch that anymore. But what do you think of Slack?
I like it. From all the other chat tools, there's a lot of them out there.
Hmm.
I like Slack. I like the convenience of use.
Hmm.
I like that I can have like contrary to my Google account, I cannot have all my Google accounts in one account. I have to kind of switch between them. In Slack, I get it done. I don't have to pay for anything. I don't have to do any. I just sign in, and I got all my Slack there from work or for the Email Geek Slack channel or whatever. Um, Definitely doesn't replace email though.
No,
I don't think we're expecting the same thing from a chat and from an email.
agreed. Yeah, agreed.
Like I usually tell people, like, if for some reason I don't answer back in like 30 seconds, uh, ping me on LinkedIn. I've got like 3 phones that have LinkedIn on them, so ping, ping, ping. Everybody knows, even my mom knows. So I will not miss a message. Slack kind of has the same idea for me. If somebody sends me a message, I'm going to see it.
Interesting.
Email, I might not see it right now, or I might not respond to it as quickly. It feels like it's something I need to prepare to do, answer back to a customer or whatever I'm
Mhm,
doing in my
mhm.
inbox. And whenever I'm bored or I don't want to work, I go in my promotions tab and I buy stuff. That's how I end up buying stuff in my inbox. I'm
Yep.
bored. Oh, yeah, maybe a reminder. I am definitely not a good e-commerce subscriber. I don't think anybody would like me on their list, 'cause I subscribe to things to remember to buy them one day when I think
Yeah.
it's relevant
Yeah.
or good enough for
Yeah.
me to buy. I'm
Which is as it should be, but not how email marketing departments want it to
yeah.
be.
Yeah, exactly. So that is what is so I can understand how difficult it might be for a marketer to make a decision
Yeah.
because of all these situational things about
Yeah.
how humans just work at the end of the day. And that's why maybe focusing on creating better emails instead of
Yeah.
more emails would help your ROI, period.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
all the
Which is
marketers get raises. Also, it's not something we get a lot of money when we work for a company that knows what an email geek is and how much value we can bring.
yeah.
But usually marketers might not make that much money when they're doing email and they don't even know email is a thing. It's just a job.
Right.
And if they knew,
If they do. Yeah.
if they knew the value of the work would be seen, which is the problem. You know, every time a company or most of the people I see, every time they make money, they don't ever attribute it to email.
Yeah.
How are you supposed to define the calculations that would prove that email is the reason this person came back?
Well, I Campaign Genius, Only Influencers, RP Origin, ran a survey to try and get a pulse on the impact of MPP. We did a survey about a month ago, and they did a webinar on the findings. And one of the questions that we snuck in there intentionally was the where do you measure different things question. And I expected email, and mostly email marketers responding. I expected people to say, I measure, I measure opens and unsubscribes and so on in my ESP. But one of the things we asked them, where do you measure revenue? And the answers were a mess, right? A substantial number of people said they pay attention to revenue inside the ESP. ESPs suck at measuring revenue, right?
Yeah.
A handful of them said we measure on, Google Analytics or something like that. I'm like, no wonder we're having problem at the attribution argument because why? We're not putting our stuff, our stuff on the same monopoly board as the other guys, but we're
Exactly.
trying to win the argument. But based on politics, the ESP said we drove a whole bunch of traffic and revenue. Well, nobody else uses the ESP. Why should they believe you?
Yeah. And also they calculate differently. I mean, like
Yeah,
I
yeah,
percent
yeah,
Google Analytics calculates stuff, and sometimes I look for the formula
yeah.
and I disagree with it as if I know better. But it's that is a problem. There's a lot of problems with email.
Yeah. Well, it seems like a fairly isolated channel compared to
Yeah.
others. Fair?
Yeah, I think it is.
Yeah.
And the way it works, the mentality behind it,
Mm.
we have this like, residual mentality that's, connected with new things. And the new things are always related to security, right? Like it's more secure, no one's going to steal your information, you less scams. It's never like to make you happier.
Mm.
Why isn't security there to make you happier? Of course, I'd be happier if, I can just put my thumbprint and walk in my house. So if I forget my keys, I'm good. I'd be happier. It's secure. I got the cameras. We always look at security as like, "Ah, great. What am I gonna have to do now? What hoops am I gonna jump through to get in the
Yeah.
inbox?"
Yeah. Yeah.
What do you mean? I don't want spam in my email. I want that mattress reminder in 15 years or maybe 10 years when I feel old and I need a new mattress. You should know that. And then
So
I don't know expecting what.
so
You know, I
well, this is a wild hypothetical. If you were a heavy duty Gmail user and
yes.
and Google came and said, we've connected up AI so we can tell what you're really interested in right now, and we'll take the stuff you're not interested in, like mattresses, and basically make it disappear so you don't have to.
Yeah.
Would you
Well, they're
trust
kind
that?
of already doing that.
Yeah.
Oh, trust it? No, hell no. You use the word AI to begin with. No.
No. Right.
But I do believe that Google is the front person, let's say, maybe I'm wrong. I don't know, my opinion, that they're getting very good at guessing what I want.
That's
And I can
yeah.
tell that because I like like we trust social Instagram to show me like dog pictures over, I don't know, sunglasses.
Right.
Uh,
Right. Right.
and do I trust that Instagram knows what I want? No. Do I use it like I trust it? Yes.
Do you have
Right.
a choice? No.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. And the
And
inbox,
points though.
the email inbox is starting to have some of those same characteristics,
Oh,
right? Like,
and I see it. I take care of my parents' inbox.
oh wow.
My dad is definitely the one who doesn't know how to use one. He's 73 years old, and he sees the email and then calls me immediately. Like, you can read it and then make a decision based on it. And I realize sometimes I sign my parents up to stuff because I'm helping a customer and I want to see things. And I'm an idiot and I forget to remove the emails. And at some point, I realized that my mom, for example, immediately, very quickly, the emails are going to disappear from her inbox. My dad, on the other case, not as quickly. He tends to sign up to, he can't tell a real website from a fake one as much. He's not super good at the technology stuff, holds his phone very far. My mom's inbox is really rather clean and mine even more. So I can already tell it's the same email from the same sender at the same time. And I did the same stuff at the beginning. I was looking for the emails to see did they receive or whatever I was doing. But over time, if I forgot somebody or I kept trying to see if there's any issues, I saw that the emails were not landing at the same place between inboxes.
Mhm.
They were not even landing sometimes at all between of them. You can tell that it is being catered. And the more time progresses, I think the better it's going to make decision. But it will never be perfect. Impossible. Google doesn't know I broke an arm today or that I bought a dog or it's
Right.
going to take
Right.
time. Every time a change
Take the
happens, it needs to relearn everything. So it's never going to be perfect. So that's on to the marketers and the business to let the marketers um, analyze data. I had read an article a couple years back. They were saying, back in the day, I don't know when back in the day was, but back in the day, lawyers, engineers, doctors, that was important. And then software engineering came up. There's a lot of that happening. And they were suspecting that the next thing wouldn't be necessarily technology related. It would be more on the data analytics side. So we want a human and very precise data analytics, a human that is understands how technology works, but that will not be done by man anymore. It will be done by more machines. So a person that understands what machines are doing and what they want and how they work, and somebody who understands what a business needs and is going to be able to take those two together to make better decisions. Apparently, that's the future of work. So people that can and by data analyst, I don't mean somebody who looks at the data just like, oh, I see bigger open rates. I mean like the story very, very bad with the names of places, whatever. They were making research to see these planes that were coming back. They had shot during war,
oh
and
yeah.
like you heard the story, right?
Yeah.
So we want to protect the places that were shot so that they'll be longer. And then some guy was like, "Why don't we check where the planes that never came back got shot and fix those issues or reinforce them?" Right?
Yeah.
And you read it and you're like, ah. Yeah, that definitely makes sense. The first one made sense too to me. Like the planes came, they shot here. Let's fix the wings,
Yeah. Yeah.
whatever it was.
Yeah.
But then the second point came in, is like, "Oh, yeah, that makes way more sense. You pick the planes that never return."
Yeah.
So those types of people are the ones that are gonna be the future because they're going to understand enough about technology, they're gonna understand the bigger picture of their business,
Mm.
and they're gonna be able to decipher, and like kind of a, "Yes, that's the direction we're going." That's it.
Mm.
That's why those in our I thought it was very interesting.
Yeah.
I felt it was very close to what email geeks are doing in not only deliverability, in statistics. We're trying to guess stuff from an open. Maybe your subject line was good. Maybe how many times did I click on the wrong email because my inbox, I have it like really skinny. So I've opened emails that I've never actually opened.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so many things. So how does a marketer, I'm in awe all the time because I set the rules. Deliverability set the rules. And then people come, well, then what am I going to do? I don't know. Go talk to a marketer.
Right.
I have my opinions and my ideas and experience and stuff, but I'm never going to be as good as some marketers out there. Oh my God, the stuff they come up with. So clever, so interesting, but it's not the majority of it.
Yeah. Yeah. Majority of it's got to be tough to be clever that frequently.
Yeah, so
Right.
frequently, and some businesses is just difficult, right? Like
Yeah.
I keep
Yeah.
using the lawyer one, of course. I mean, if I do divorces, like I can't sell 2 for 1 divorce. And it's like,
Let's hope.
you
Except
know
maybe,
what? That'd
maybe
be
in Utah.
weird, but
Okay.
it's right. So we'll see how it goes.
Parting question for you.
Yeah.
Where what would you expect be different, substantially different? This is a future of email question. In say 5 years in the email space.
What is gonna change?
Yeah. Big change.
I think the I think these spam filters, the mailbox writers, all the people that can make decisions, the ones that we don't know, that are self-governing, are going to become so strict that people are going to notice that email is more complicated than it is.
Interesting.
I think I felt it in the last year, last August, September, last January, February. Uh, Types of industries that couldn't inbox anymore. The whole industry, boom, can't inbox anymore. So I think people are gonna notice. Everyone's gonna get a slap in the face one after the other because the more things that we're doing that are incorrect or unwanted, and it doesn't need to be a big one, just unwanted. Google is gonna make it his job, or whoever is gonna make it his job to protect its customers from it. So the day that technology reaches thing under as close to understanding of what we want, we are going to get hurt. And we saw it with social media. We could spam people and do all these email like pictures and whatever. And at some point, it became really difficult. You had to to get those likes and get those things. You really need to work at it. It wasn't as easy anymore. And I think
Yeah.
email is kind of tired of it, and that's what's going to happen. That's my guess. People are
Interesting.
gonna know.
Interesting. I love that. I love that. That's a great sort of projection to watch for. There's not a
Mhm.
100% accurate exactly X has to happen, but that's a heck of a trend line to throw
People are
out there.
gonna they're gonna get that slap in the face, and it's
What the-
gonna make people panic. Like COVID did.
yeah.
Oh, COVID, it made people panic, right?
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
it did.
Definitely a reset.
Uh-huh.
Definitely a reset button. Well, I knew this would be awesome and fun. Thank you for the time and the wisdom.
Oh,
I I suspect there's some really good lessons for a lot of different businesses in some of the things you've shared.
thank you. Thank you for having me. I can talk about this forever.
Yeah, that's okay. Well, my guest today has been Yanna-Torry Aspraki, calling me from the Netherlands and chatting on Zoom. Thanks, Yanna-Torry.
Thanks.